Welcome to Larry's Library, and welcome to another Top 10 Tuesday. So this is the first Tuesday of a new month and of the new year. So it is time for my top 10 favorite reads of 2025. So I have been using Goodreads to help me stay on track for my reading goals. And each year I have tried to exceed the previous year as far as number of books read, because some of you may know I have a huge unread backlog. Now, in 2025, I did exceed my goal of 150 by 15. And so I finished out 2025 with 165 books read. Now, this, reading more each year is going to get harder and harder as I finish off my unread single issue comic book bin. And right now, that bin is sitting at about 40 issues, is all I have left. So, it's going to get harder and harder because, of course, it takes a lot longer to read, a 1,200-page omnibus than it does a 32-page single-issue comic book. And I don't, actively acquire single-issue comic books anymore. I've switched to collected editions, as anybody who's watched this channel very long is aware. The only exception to that is I am getting Titan Savage Sword of Conan. You could call that a single issue, although it's typically 64 pages instead of 32. It's still much smaller than the average graphic novel or collected edition. So, I'm still getting those, but you're only talking about one or two, I guess if you count Reforged, maybe 2 titles a month. So once I finish that 40-odd issue unread bin over there, I'm going to have less and less single issues. I have been reading one single issue title a week in my schedule that I have set up here, and I've been adhering to it pretty good. So I'm going to burn through all those next year. Should be no problem at all. And then it'll be only graphic novels, prose novels, trades, and that sort of thing. So of that 165 books read in my Goodreads stats, I'm going to say probably about 20 of those were prose novels, and about 54, 55 maybe were single issue comics of one flavor or another, whether they be regular 32 pagers or the 64 page magazine size stuff. So since I did have 20 or so prose novels, this year I've decided to spin off the prose stuff into its own top 10. The last couple of years, the prose stuff has been taking up at least 1, 2, 3 slots of my top 10 that would have been all comic books before. So now I am spinning those off into their own top 10. But it won't be a separate video, I've decided. I deliberated about that for a long time, whether I was going to make that a separate video or go ahead and put it in this one. And ultimately I decided to put it in this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have timestamps down below in the description. So those of you who don't care about my prose selections don't have to sit through that. But if you want to see that and you don't want to see the comic book stuff, you can skip to the prose, which I'm going to have at the end, or vice versa. So I'll have timestamps for the 2 different top 10s there. Hopefully, though, most of you will go ahead and watch the whole video because I'm taking the time to do it, and I've had a lot of fun assembling this, and I think there'll be some surprises for you that you may not expect out of Larry's Library, so we'll see. But first, let's look at my Goodreads stats overall. So Goodreads, in case you didn't know, is a free app. It's also a website, so you don't have to use the app you don't want, although that's kind of the thing these days is to do it all on your smartphone. But I'm old school, and I'm a computer-first guy. I prefer my computer. I only really use the smartphone because I can't fit my computer in my pocket. If I could, I'd carry my desktop on my back and just have it with me everywhere. But that's not how it works in the real world. And it certainly isn't how it works at my day job, because I'm not even supposed to be using my smartphone there, but you know how that works. I do. So there you go. So let's talk about my Goodreads stats. So according to Goodreads, and I do question some of these stats, I think most of them are pretty accurate, but more on that later. But according to my Goodreads stats, I read 26,661 total pages in 2025. That's a lot. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but we'll go with that for now. 165 books read. According to them, the shortest book I read was Supervillain Team Up number 11 at 18 pages. Now, I really didn't believe that stat. So I went back and I pulled that out of the bin there and I counted the pages. I did a hand count. They're right. Not counting ads, that book only has 18 pages of story. And that is wild because, I've been reading comic books since I was about 9 years old, late 70s. And pretty much every single comic book from Marvel, DC, at least that I've encountered, has had 32 pages, counting the ads, with somewhere between 20 and 23 pages of story. And almost always right around 23. And sure enough, for some reason, this book from the late 70s, wow, only 18 pages of story. That book had a lot of ads in it, so they were right on that one. Anyway, while the longest book was Thor by Jason Aaron, Omnibus Volume 2, and that chonker clocked in at 1,368 pages. That was a big boy. My average book length, though, was 161 pages. Now, remember, that's considering 50-plus single-issue comics, plus 20 or so prose novels, and then the rest being graphic novels, ranging from thin trade paperbacks all the way up to monster omnibuses and all in between. So it's probably about right at 161. Now, the most shelved book I read in 2025 was Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, I'm not sure that the stat here isn't very specific, but I think what this means here is that The Picture of Dorian Gray was shelved by, let's see, I got the number here, it's a big one. 4,067,498 people also shelved that book. Now, I don't think it means in 2025, I think it means probably since the platform's been around. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Star Slayer issue 7 is my least shelved book that I shelved in 2025. According to GR Stats, 0 other people shelved that book. Now, I don't, like I said, I guess that's ever. So it's kind of weird because I didn't add that book to Goodreads. It was already in there. I can't really add books to it. You have to be a librarian to do that. We'll get into a little more of that later. But anyway, so it's weird that it was listed in the database, but no one had shelved it until I shelved it. That's an odd one. So if you know more about Goodreads than I do, which is entirely possible, weigh in on what you think these stats means and if I'm interpreting them correctly. The average rating score that I gave in 2025, and they have a 1 through 5 star rating system, much to my chagrin. I'd rather it be 10 because I feel like the even number gives you a lot more. You can be a lot more specific than just 1 through 5. Anyway, the average one that I applied in 2025 was a 4.2. Which, as I've stated before, and some people laugh at me for this, but I am an expert. I am a big expert, big-time self-proclaimed expert on one thing, and that's what I like. So I am really good at picking what I like. I have a really good track record of that, which is good because a lot of these things are very expensive, and it's been very, very seldom that I have bought a comic book or a prose novel and read it and didn't like it. I mean, it just almost never happens. I could probably count on one hand the times that's ever happened. So generally, I pick stuff I like. Now, that does vary how much I like it, but usually I like it a lot. So anyway, like I said, so the average that I gave out was a 4.2. Now, the highest rated book that I rated in 2025, having a full 5-star average on the platform, is Star Slayer issue number 2. So there you go. Now, I do wish that the platform could be improved. I believe that it was an independent website and app before Amazon came in and bought it out. Now, luckily, I guess we're lucky that they have not just either made it a pay platform or just got rid of it altogether, because they certainly could have done that. They have integrated their books, the books they sell into the system, so you can look them up and buy them from there, or that sort of thing, which is fine. There's no intrusive ads really, other than that aspect, if you look at it that way. So Amazon hasn't really done bad with the platform, but they certainly have not made it any better. I wish they put a little more money into it and improved the speed of it, because sometimes the server can be kind of slow. And I wish that the main thing I wish they would change, though, is that there should be a user editable system set up. Now, I don't mean that we can do direct edits necessarily. I still believe in oversight, because there'd be people making corrections that are wrong, and I would hate that just as bad. But I mean, you should be able to suggest a book be added if it isn't there, and the system should look at it and then maybe have a human moderator. There are volunteers, these librarians. They could say, yeah, he's right, this is not in there, let's add it. Boom, it gets added. Fortunately, that doesn't really happen now. There's a way to contact the librarians. I think there's some kind of form type thing set up, but it's far from simple, and it's far from fast. I really wish that they would streamline the whole system and get it to where, when there's an obvious error, I should be able to mark that error within the app immediately, and it should be flagged, and then someone can look at it. So they really need to work on that. But this isn't a review of Goodreads. I just wanted to point a few things out that's going on there. But now the positive aspects of it is the community. You can have friends on there. They can comment on your stuff. They can follow you, and you can see what they read. They can see what you read, and they can read your reviews. You can read theirs, and I mean, it's that aspect of it is top notch, and that's what makes it such a great platform. That, and the way that you can easily track what you read. Now, you can see in some of the, if you pause on some of these, this is they're scrolling. This is straight out of Goodreads of these images I pulled. Often there's no cover, so there's just a blank space where the cover should be. Now, that's an example of it. I should be able to add that cover. I mean, I scan the cover of every single book in my collection. I love doing that sort of thing. And Adobe loves me for it, because I keep subscribing to their terrible value of Photoshop subscription, because I love to mess with images and scans and things. But anyway, it's a whole other story. But anyway, I could quite easily add those covers, but the system isn't set up for that. There's no way for me to add the cover as a user. That's crazy. But anyway, so you'll see some blank ones in there because there's no covers for some of the more obscure stuff that I'm reading, I guess. But as long as you're not reading something so obscure that it's not even in the database, like this guy, that happens to me at least 2 or 3 times a year, it is easy to track the stuff that you're reading. So at the end of the year, you'll have those statistics you can look back on without having to, come up with some system yourself. So it is good for that. And I'm glad to have it. And I encourage you all to use Goodreads and follow me on there. Finally, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 favorite comic reads of 2025. But one more but before we get into that, as usual, I have some honorable mentions. I've got a slew of honorable mentions because there was so many great books I read in 2025. It was so hard to get this down to 10. So I kind of cheated, and I've probably got more than 10 honorable mentions, but we'll go through those kind of fast in no particular order. Here are the honorable mentions, the stuff that was almost good enough to bust into my top favorite reads, but couldn't quite make it. I'll go through those now. Dynamite Space Ghost, the first trade paperback. Awesome. So good. Really good stuff there. Flung Out of Space, inspired by the indecent adventures of Patricia Highsmith. That one damn near made it. Really, really good. A Distant Neighborhood. Fabulous. Pick that up if you can. Philadelphia. I read the 2 hardcovers of that. That nearly made it. By my son-in-law, Reed Chancellor, Hardcore Happiness, A Graphic Journey to Find Punk's Positivity. Really, really good work there. Thor by Jason Aaron, Omnibus Volume 2. Almost made it. Punisher, also by Jason Aaron, Omnibus. That was killer. The Knives by Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Their latest in the criminal saga. Fabulous. Batman by Loeb and Sale, Omnibus. Read that in 2025. Nearly made it into the top 10. Lady Mechanica Deluxe, hardcover volume 6. Just finished that one a couple weeks ago. Wow. That's the word for that. I mean, I've been having fun with that series for a long time. Loved the first 5 volumes. But man, volume 6 notches it up to 11. I mean, man, this was so much better than the previous ones. Benitez's writing has really improved. The art was always stellar, but the writing in this one, awesome. It almost knocked something out of the top 10, I tell you. It was that good. But what comics actually made it in the top 10, we're going to get into that right now. At number 10, I've got Judge Dredd Classics, The Dark Judges. Now, I've got a nice, beautiful hardcover of this. It was a gift from Super Laugh Hard. Thank you, Super Laugh Hard, once again. This was written by John Wagner and Alan Grant. Art by, a roster of great artists. Brian Boland, Brett Ewins, not sure the pronunciation there. Cliff Robinson and Robin Smith were on art for that. This is a great story. Really good stuff. Loved it. At number 9, and this could have easily went higher. This was so good. Rook Exodus Deluxe Edition. So this is part of the Ghost Machine universe, written by Jeff Johns. Unbelievably beautiful, detailed art by Jason Fabok. This is stellar. This giant, oversized hardcover collects the first 6 issues of this wonderful post-apocalyptic series. It's set on a planet that was terraformed to simulate Earth and populated by Earth animals. And it was like a paradise. Absolute blast read. It was a paradise until the company pulled out and everybody left except the animal handlers. And that's what this is about. It's just terrific. If you like high concept sci-fi with sort of almost a Mad Max vibe to it, this is the one. This was killer. And that's why it's number 9 in my top 10 favorite reads, comic book wise, of 2025. Number 8, I've got Those Not Afraid, the trade paperback. And this was written by Kyle Starks. Fabulous art here by Patrick P. Let's see if I can pronounce this right. Patrick P. Ozalonga. I think that's right. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that one right. But I've never seen this guy's art before. Really blew me away. Loved it. So this trade collects all 4 issues of the series. This is a thrilling story of 2 serial killers competing in a race for kills, for the kill record. A disturbing concept told in an extremely entertaining way. That's how I describe this book. I wish we could have got more of this, as it does end with a dangling plot point, I should say. But what we have here is still great. And it's very much worth reading. Kyle Starks knocked it out here. Just wish we had more of it, but still great enough to make number 8. At number 7, I have a single issue comic book, actually. We're taking everyone down with us, issue 1. Now, I was holding out for a hardcover of this because I think it finished out. I think it was 6 issues total, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments, please. But I think this is over now and complete. But I have issue 1. This was autographed by Matthew Rosenberg, and this was a gift from Jewish Dragons. Thank you again, Jewish Dragons, for sending me this. This was written by Matthew Rosenberg, like I said, art by Stefano Landini. This is good. Another high-concept sci-fi sort of thriller, spy, action. I mean, there's so many concepts going on here. I don't even want to describe it. Because I went into this one completely cold. No knowledge of what was going to happen here. Just read it. Was totally enthralled. Great, great stuff. I think I'm going to go ahead and order that trade paperback because I'm afraid this won't get a hardcover, and I want to finish it. That's how good this single issue comic book was, and that's why it's number 7 in my top 10. At number 6, I've got another single issue comic book. This is Titans, Savage Sword of Conan magazine, issue number 11, and specifically on the strength of the main story here, Tattered Wings. This was written and drawn by Liam Sharp, check out my full review. I'll link it up one of these corners. I'll have it for you. But man, he really nailed Conan. This is it. This is the stuff. If you're a fan of Robert E. Howard's character, Conan the Barbarian, you don't get much better than this. This is it. Such a blast. And that's why it's number 6. My top 10 favorite comic reads of 2025. Right in the middle at number 5, I have Deadly Class by Rick Remender. Fan favorite Rick Remender. Art by Wes Craig. Great art there. I have the 4, I think it's 4. Let's see. Yeah, 4. I have the 4 giant sort of library edition size hardcovers collecting these, but they're still in print, I believe, in mini format. You can get them in trade if you don't want to pop for these big ones, but these big ones are beautiful. It's so worth it, so get that if you can. Set in 1987, it starts there anyway. It goes through, a couple other decades, but the story follows the lives of teenage students in a secret school for assassins. Now, yes, this was made into a short-lived, never completed, I don't think, TV series, which I've never seen, but don't worry about that. Get this and read it if you haven't already. It is fabulous. The hype is real on this one. Really engrossing story, great characters, and terrific art. More greatness from Rick Remender. What can I say? I pretty much love just about everything I've read by this guy. Just great. At number 4, I have Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. It was written and drawn by Tom Scioli, I believe is the pronunciation. Hopefully I got that right. This was far better than I imagined it could possibly be. I mean, I thought I knew everything there was to know about Jack Kirby. I mean, I've been a Jack Kirby worshiper for, since I'm a little kid. And I've seen all the interviews. I've read tons of interviews. I've read all the memoirs and by different people. And, I thought I knew it all. But I learned something here. And it was a great read, gotta say. This was a gift from my son-in-law, Reed Chancellor. Son-in-law and comic creator, Reed Chancellor. Check out his stuff if you haven't already. But anyway, this book blew me away. Really, really good stuff. If you are a fan of comic books, especially Marvel Comics or Marvel and DC for that matter, and you're into the history of the medium and you want to learn more about it, this is one way to do that. And this is, I would say, required reading for any student of comic books. Check this one out. At number 3, I have Drawing Blood, Volume 1, Spilled Ink. It's a trade paperback written by Kevin Eastman. Yep, that Kevin Eastman, the turtle guy, and David Avalo. The art here is by Ben Bishop, Kevin Eastman, Troy Little, Brittany Peer, and Tommy Varga. This was a gift from Jewish Dragons also. And it is autographed by David Avalon. Thanks again, Jewish Dragons, for sending this to me. This is an example of something that I would have never bought myself. Because, I would have thought, yeah, that looks fine, but I don't care about funny animal cartoons, comic books. I think the turtles are fine, but I just never really bought any of that stuff. And looking at this cover even, I would have probably never picked this up. But someone gifted it to me, in this case, Jewish Dragons. And I read it. And wow, blew me away. This is like if Quentin Tarantino decided to make a movie about comic book artists, comic book creators, and gangsters, and all kinds of assorted mess, you'd get something like this. In fact, this would make a great movie, and Tarantino should do it. Okay, that's how good this thing was. Really, really loved it. I'm hoping there's more coming, and I think there is, but I don't know how long that's going to take, but wow. If you are into comic books, again, and the making of comic books, and sort of the craft involved, and maybe some of the stuff that happens. This isn't, I wouldn't even say this was semi-autobiographical, but there's probably some real things in here, because it is from the perspective of a comic creator, a struggling comic creator at first, and then he gets some success, and then some stuff goes awry. But I won't give it away. This is just really, really enthralling and totally well done. Pick this up. If you're into comic books, you're going to love this. If you love the medium, you're going to love this. If you're a Ninja Turtle fan, you're certainly going to love this. Kevin Eastman fan, yeah, grab this. And if you're not a Kevin Eastman fan, after you read this, you probably will be. So that's why it's number 3 in my top 10 favorite comic reads of 2025. At number 2, I have Helen of Windhorn. I have the standard size hardcover of this one that collects the first 6 issues, written by Tom King, with art by, I think it's pronounced Bilquis Evely. Hopefully I got that right. Fantastic stuff. This is an epic fairy tale with a couple of sword slinging heroes, fairies and monsters, and basically all the things I love. And this art is unbelievably, breathtakingly beautiful. It is incredible. But if you can, hold out for the super deluxe Mondo giant version of this that comes out toward the end of February of 2026. And that will include the entire saga. And that's what I'm going for. I mean, I have this one, and I read it, enjoyed the hell out of it, and I'm eagerly awaiting that big monster that's going to collect it all. Because this, if anything deserves a large format, it's this person's unbelievable art. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And the story is wonderful, too. It really is. It's a good story. But, man, what is selling this one is the art. I mean, just look at this cover. Just looking at this cover, I think you know what you're in store for here. Beautiful, beautiful art. This shows you right here that the medium, the comic book medium, is an art form. I mean, if there was any doubt, and certainly probably isn't any doubt among anyone watching this video probably, but if any of the public needs convincing, all you got to do is show them this masterpiece. And you got it. I mean, that's why this is number 2, my second favorite read of 2025. But what could possibly be better than this? Well, I don't know if it's better, but it managed to displace it. So my favorite read of 2025 is Conan, bound in black stone, deluxe edition hardcover. Got the big giant one of this. Waited for it. This is Titan Comics has taken over the Conan licensing, and they are doing some great stuff with it. Written by Jim Zub, art by Roberto De La Torre. This guy is unbelievable. Check out my full review of this if you haven't already. I'll link it up also. So yeah, this oversized hardcover collects the first 4 issues of the new Titan Conan series, as well as the Free Comic Book Day 2023 issue, along with some extra sketches in the back and a foreword by Roy Thomas. Comes in at 144 pages, so it's kind of a skinny boy, but it's huge format with beautiful, beautiful art. This was just an absolute joy. Jim Zub doing a great job with it. Jim Zub, he is inheriting the mantle for the Conan scribe. You know, that was Roy Thomas, and now it's went to Jim Zub. I can't praise it more than that. So yeah, check out my full review if you missed that. That's why it's my favorite read of 2025. I mean, this blew me away. Met all expectations and exceeded them. Yeah, so I love this thing. If you haven't read this and you're a Conan fan at all, go get it. It's fantastic. So hope you like taking a look at these. And stay tuned. We'll get into my top 10 non-comic book reads. As I said, I had about, I'm going to say, around 20 prose novel, I'll say non-comic book reads in 2025. So this list wasn't nearly as difficult to assemble as the comic book list was, because I had a whole lot more to choose from there. But still, it was a little bit of a task. Now, of course, many of the books in this list, just like in my comic list, did not come out in 2025. This just means I read them in 2025. So let's get into it. At number 10, I have Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And this was This was Stephen King's second novel. This came out it's published originally in 1975. Check out my video where I do a little comparison and sort of mini review of this book and compared to Tobe Hooper's 1979 film adaptation, TV movie adaptation. If you haven't checked that out, I'll try to link that up above too. I don't know how many things I can fit in there, but we'll see. But yeah. I had never read this before. I had seen the movie as a kid. I hadn't seen it in a long time. So that video goes into that in a lot more detail. But yeah, this was actually the first Stephen King I've ever read too. And I liked it a lot. And number 9, I have a not really a novel, but certainly not a comic book. This is Sal Buscema Comics Fast and Furious Artist. It's written by Jim Amish with Eric Nolan Withington. It's a fascinating retrospect of Sal Buscema's crazy, incredible career, mostly in the form of a long interview. So this is a fun read and a cool peek into the life of a legend. Really good stuff here. I had never heard of this book before. This was a gift from Reed Chancellor, my son-in-law. And yeah, this is great stuff. This is another great book for someone that's interested, that's a student of comic book history. Sal Buscema is certainly a contributor to Marvel's history, especially Marvel. He did some DC also, but yeah, so check this out if you can get a hold of a copy of it. I've got a nice hardcover, like I said. Great stuff. Yeah, learned a lot about Sal Buscema. Always one of my favorites, and I appreciate him even more after reading about his life. At number 8, I have Something Wicked This Way Comes, written by Ray Bradbury. This was originally published in 1962. There was a film adaptation in 1983. If you haven't seen that, it's pretty good. This is part of the so-called Greentown trilogy. You don't have to read them in any certain order or even read them all, but if you do read them, they will contribute to one another, and some of them feature the same characters or users. Certainly, but they're all set in the same area, this fictitious town of Greentown, which is loosely based on Ray Bradbury's real-life childhood town of, I think it was Waukegan, Illinois, I want to say. I could have that wrong. But yeah, I've never read this before. This is great stuff. At number 7, I have another book from the Greentown trilogy, and this is Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine. This was originally published in 1957. It's the first book, technically, I guess, in the Greentown trilogy. And this really is about a sort of a thinly veiled autobiography in many ways about Ray Bradbury's childhood. And it's bittersweet. It's not sci-fi or horror, but it will make you cry, I'll tell you that. If you have a soul, you will cry when you read this book, but it's good stuff. And that's why it's number 7. My top 10 favorite prose reads of 2025. At number 6, got another book in the Greentown trilogy. This is Farewell Summer. So Ray Bradbury wrote this much later in life. In fact, it was the last novel he published in his lifetime. It came out in 2006 originally. This is the direct sequel to Dandelion Wine. And it features some of the same characters, but in their later years, through growing up and then all into their elderly days even, and as an old man, you see the main character. So it's really good. And this is another tearjerker too. So yeah, this also not really fantasy, and not horror, not sci-fi, but real life stuff, and it's fantastic. If you love Ray Bradbury and you haven't read this, you need to get it. Right in the middle of this top 10, I've got Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, but to a lesser degree. These novels were written by Ernest Cline, published in 2011. The first one was anyway. This was made into a movie by Steven Spielberg in 2018, which I still haven't seen, so I need to watch that. But the novel sequel was released in 2020, and it's really good. This is all about geeky pop culture. It's all in there. I mean, especially with a nod to the 80s in particular, a little bit into the 90s too. But yeah, if you're of my age, certainly, or you're a fan of pop culture, especially geeky pop culture from the 80s, you are going to be right at home here, and you're going to love this sci-fi book. And it's got some awesome sci-fi in it too. It is set in the future. I won't say not a post-apocalyptic, but certainly a somewhat dystopian future. But it is great. I need to check out the movie. If any of you have read the book and watched the film, let me know how you compare the two and what you think about that down in the comments. And number 4, I have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, this is originally published in 1818. Countless movies and comic adaptations have been done of this, of course, and I've loved most of the ones I've seen. Now, I have not seen the latest one, so maybe that one will get it right, but I gotta say, none of the adaptations I have watched or read, in comic form and whatnot, have even come close to depicting the monster correctly. they all, depict him as a fire bat, and like that, and being a dumb creature. And I was really surprised when I read the original book here. Then, and I think I had read it once before. Well, I had tried to read it as a kid and I didn't get very far in it, but read it now in 2025 and loved it. I was enthralled by it. And I was very surprised that the creature is not dumb. In fact, he learns to read and other. I mean, it's wild, the differences here. And I'm surprised that no one has even got it accurate so far. Maybe the newest film does get it right. I'm going to check it out, and I'll let you know what I think. At number 3, I have Conan, the Tower of the Elephant. This was, of course, written by the immortal Robert E. Howard. This was originally published in a 1933 issue of Weird Tales magazine. Not this particular adaptation, but the original Prose. But it's been reprinted many, many times in many paperbacks and it was adapted into comic books like 4 times. This is the Titan hardcover, is what I have here. It has the original Robert E. Howard text with stunning, fully painted art by Valentin Seicha. I mean, and this stuff is fabulous. Check out my full review of this one if you haven't already. I'll try to link it in the link list. Hopefully there's enough room. But yeah, this was great, and it's in a huge, huge hardcover format. Absolutely fabulous. This short story, this is probably the most beautiful way it's ever been presented. It's very, very good. And that's why it's my number 3 favorite non-comic book read of 2025. At number 2, I have A Monster Calls. This was written by Patrick Ness. It was published in 2011. There was a film adaptation in 2016 and a stage play in 2018. Now, I have not seen either one of those, so I need to really bad. The movie, certainly. So this is a dark fantasy with some horror elements, but at its core, it's about how we deal with sickness and death and loss. It's powerful and it's heart-rending. Have a supply of tissues ready. Have a whole box of tissues ready if you're going to read this one. If you, like I said about some of the Bradbury stuff, if you have a soul, you will cry when you read this. A lot. I certainly did, but I loved it. This was charming, but also heartbreaking at the same time. Really good stuff. Well, what is my number 1 favorite read of non-comic book, I should say, favorite read of 2025? And it has to be The Body. This novel, written by Stephen King, first published in 1982. This one was the one that Rob Reiner made his legendary film version of, and it was called Stand By Me. That one came out in 1986. If you haven't seen that, stop whatever you're doing and go watch that movie. It is fantastic. But I had never read the book before. Got on a little bit of a Stephen King kick this last year. Got this book given to me by my daughter, Kristen, and I read it, and man, it was terrific. Really good stuff. This is set in 1960, and it's very loosely based on Stephen King's own childhood, his friends and his misadventures, although he never went looking for a dead body in real life. He did say that in many interviews. So this is an emotionally charged powerhouse of a story. It really is. It feels very, very real, and it's full of just intense moments that will likely remind you of your own life, even if you didn't grow up in the 60s. I mean, I didn't. I'm not that old. But yeah, and even if you didn't ever find a dead body in the woods somewhere either, I mean, you're still it's gonna feel real to you. It certainly did me. And I never knew that Stephen King was this good of a writer. I mean, all this time I never bothered to read any Stephen King. Last year I read a couple of his books, and I guess I'm a fan now, because gotta say, this was absolutely enthralling and terrific. And again, another book that's going to make you cry probably if you have a soul. And that's kind of a theme of a lot of these books. They made me cry, and that's how they made my list. But I mean, it's not a necessity, but it worked here. Yeah, so if you haven't read Stephen King's The Body, go do it. Go read that now. A lot of the stuff in the film version, Stand By Me, is just pulled straight out of here, almost whole cloth. Now, I haven't rewatched that movie in a very, very long time. I will do that. Maybe I'll make a video where I compare and contrast. I don't know. But yeah, loved the movie. love the book at least as much. Great, great stuff. And that's why it's my #1 favorite read, non-comic book of last year, 2025. So I do hope you like taking a look at these books. And if you are looking for recommendations, here's a great way to get some. Watch this video and, jot down the ones that you're interested in. They're out there, and I hope you enjoy reading as much as I do. And I read a lot of great stuff last year, and I plan on reading even more next year. Subscribe if you don't want to miss this kind of content. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up if you did, and I will catch you next time.